Let's quickly understand some of the major things that have been discussed in this down to earth edition. So, there has been a series of multiple disease outbreak starting with Marburg fever as one of those which was identified in Rwanda, and similar other fevers. The major reason have been the food insecurity, malnutrition, conflicts, weather events, extreme weather conditions, and this has led to surge in the number of outbreaks for diseases which are vector borne, flea borne, and related episodes. Also, Africa is one of the nations which has not received sufficient number of immunizations for various diseases, and that has also been responsible. The zoonotic diseases are on a rise in Africa, and this is now spreading globally. Some of the important ones that have been pointed out are Ebola in West Africa, Mpox as another one, Marburg fever as another one. Then we are now talking about Oropocho or sloth fever. We are talking about Murine typhus. The case of infestation was seen even in Kerala, and that was because of the rat flea. The patient had brought it from its international travel history from Vietnam and Cambodia. So there have been a series of zoonotic diseases on rise, and it has been attributed to climate change as one of the major aspects. Now the next is the end of the monsoon. There has been highest temperatures in and around for the month of September and October, reaching around 40 degrees Celsius, which have been unprecedentedly high heat temperatures being recorded in the regions with high pressure conditions, creating hot dry weather situations. And if this persists, this would reduce the cloud cover, and again there could be above than normal of the rainfall that could be predicted across India. The next is the climate hit nations are again at a debt. Now there have been options to pause debt repayment. One such example was the Australia's decision after Grenada, which is a Caribbean nation, became the first to activate the clause in government bond, and this was when Grenada deferred a $30 million debt repayment to private investors, redirecting the efforts towards recovery. Another important issue that has been discussed in this edition is about Hindon River. Now Hindon River has become highly toxic, going across 7 different districts of Uttar Pradesh. This region is having numerous factories in Saharanpur, Shamli, and related areas, and it has been seen that this river has witnessed uncontrolled industrial waste, insufficient amount of treatment facilities for sewage which is seen along it, and as a result the toxic levels are extremely high, leading to extremely high levels of lead and chromium, and a higher number of cancers ever reported in the region. Now this has seen across the tributaries, which is Krishni and Kali, starting in the regions of Saharanpur, then they converge with Hindon, which is the main river in Bagpat, and Meerut, and all of them have been responsible for the pollution which has been caused. The statistics have been revealed as per the Central Pollution Control Board and is up here, which would be available in the handout. So I won't be going on to the exact figures here. You can just refer the handouts for more information, or you can pause the video and take the details here. But this has led to increase in the biological oxygen demand, the levels reaching up to 30 milligrams per liter, which are extremely high, because when we say the suitability of water for bathing is below 3 milligrams, and the levels, if they are 30 milligrams, you can understand the gap that is there. So extremely high amount of pollution overload which is seen. And if we look about the courts, how it has gone in the court, we can see that there were emergence of the industrial units in and around the Hindon River initially in 1950s. There were metal pollutions identified in 1980s. In 2014, the first case of pollution of Hindon River was identified, and then since then NGT, Central Pollution Control Board, have been working. There have been regular health checkups which have been organized in the region, but still we have seen that the cases have been rising. The pollution has not stopped. The sewage treatment plants are not functional, and there has to be a regular check onto the waters that are flowing for the domestic usage. So the same story runs for the nearby settlements. Muzaffarnagar, you would see the same story for Meerut, you would see the same story for Shamli, Baghpat, then you have Ghaziabad and Gautam Buddha Nagar. So all of these are the affected areas. The next topic that we would discuss is the culinary melon. Now this is a melon from southern India. It is mainly used for preparing the various cucumber varieties, using it with the traditional South Indian dishes, and has been known by different names in different parts of the states. So in Karnataka it is the Mangalore cucumber, which is known as Sauthiyaki, and this is actually patchy and stripped. And Kerala it is called as Vellarika. Similarly, it is named by different names in different parts of the country, but it is also used to prepare a spicy pickle. It is used as an ingredient for various dishes where sour flavor has to be introduced. It is believed that this fruit is low in fat, cholesterol, good in vitamin C and caffeic acid, which promotes healthy skin. It also supports muscle bone development and has traces for silica, magnesium and potassium, which are really good for health. It also have traces for fiber content and essential amino acids. Then we are talking about the origin. Now origin may be traced back to Africa. The regions of Southwest and Central Asia do serve as the primary center for this variety of cucumber, which is relatively sour and is highly popular. It can be stored at room temperature for up to 6 months, and many of the rural households actually see those hanging in the kitchen roofs. The variety is very important, because this hybrid can last for nearly 90 days without any preservative or any use of pesticides or insecticides. The next is rising seaweed cultivation. Now with the global climate change, we are seeing that the coastal areas are intruding in, the river water, the sea waters are intruding into the land, and as a result seaweed cultivation is one such thing which has been identified. So this was an invasive species which was brought into the Gulf of Mannar in Tamil Nadu, and this was introduced nearly 2 decades ago. The idea was this would actually be useful for various foods, beverages and medicines. It would also act as a biostimulant. It would produce a common emulsifier which is known as carrageenan, and this variety of seaweed is known as Cephaphyphus elzeviris, and this is a really important variety. However, globally we are seeing that India accounts for only 0.1% of the total seaweed production. This can definitely increase over the years. Initially it was only the Gulf of Mannar and Tamil Nadu region. However, now we have seen the coast of Gujarat also producing seaweeds, and this has come up with very high demand. We have seen the seaweeds have been imported from Philippines, from Japan for testing in the region, and this has also been popularly used as a dish in Asian sushi. Also we are seeing potential benefits because it leads to carbon sequestration, so absorption of carbon dioxide increases with seaweed, so again it has its own benefit. The next is corals, and understanding that if the seaweeds are grown, they are neither invasive nor toxic to the nearby corals, but they could be parallel to the rice and wheat cultivation in India and definitely bring in food security in India. So this development is a earmarked development. We have seen a rapid spread, and these are the commercial sites, as you can see in the list that we have brought, and the total number of possible cultivations in hectares across different states, as you can see, all the coastal states have been covered here. The next is the issue of seed degradation. Now seed degradation has been addressed by Niti Aayog very carefully, where we have identified certain seeds which have the methods of propagation through which they are more vulnerable to environmental stress or diseases, and this reduces the yield of the seed. And therefore seed and identifying the right variety, bringing in solutions for importing them, for preserving them is important, and creating hybrids in the same way is important. The next is the patents and the story behind the patent. So At the end of the September, there was a news regarding two of the scientists who were awarded Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2020 for their research on genome editing for the CRISPR gene have requested the withdrawal of the patents related to this innovation. Now, patent filing have become a key issue, and there have been reports that this has suddenly been decided to make the discovery freely accessible. So, whenever you are trying to understand it, you must understand few of the things regarding patents. Firstly, the innovation must be new, not already known. It must be useful. It should not be just an idea, and it should be easy for someone to know about the subject to make it. And finally, the invention must describe it clearly to others so that it makes itself useful and worthwhile. So with all these things, inventions have to be patented. And this review board brought an interesting study where one of the Indian origin candidates, Prashant Mali, actually worked hard for it, but ultimately his name was nowhere. And this was again a question that has been raised significant times. There have been co-authoring of the works for the enzyme Cas9, and again those were not cited, and if they were listed, they were not awarded for various honors or contributions. So there are definite shortcomings in the system for the patent, and this has a sad side of the story. We have seen the similar story by a group of scientists from Lithuania who had discovered the capability of CRISPR-Cas9 to cut the DNA. Around the same time, the Nobel laureates were awarded the Nobel Prize. So there has to be this transparency which has to be brought, and the issue must be resolved to its best. The next is the farmers' income. Over the years, we have seen that when we are talking about doubling the farmers' income, it is nowhere close to the double. Rather, it has been stagnated. Despite the fact that the food prices are rising, the farmers are not getting adequate pay for the same. Now, there are numerous reasons cited for it. Because of the inflation, there have been rising in the raw material that farmers are procuring, and as a result, the spending that a farmer is doing is much higher than what they had ever expected. And this is one of the reasons that they are not able to make up good profits, and as a result, this has affected the agriculture in the country. The next is the Kolkata tram. Now, trams have been discontinued after 150 years. There is just a stretch of small tram that would remain across the Victoria Memorial from Esplanade to Maidan area, and that would remain a historic route. There have been numerous debates on and off for whether the tram should continue or it is causing congestion on the road. So actually, Kolkata is adding nearly 87,000 vehicles on road on regular basis every year. With this high number, there has to be a good thrust that has to be given to public transport. This transport could be in the form of tram, electric vehicles, electric buses, metro lines. But by any ways, this tram was not the only reasons of congestion on the road. However, there have been allegations and severe series of debates that have gone across the issue. The statistics have been revealed where the land under trams have now been converted into bus stops. They are now accommodating buses and trams both, and the speed for the tram was actually less, but it was considered as environmental friendly. So there has been a constant debate in and out regarding the same. The next is, are we prepared for the next pandemic? So here there has been the trigger for COVID-19 pandemic, which called for a health emergency, and this virus still remains pandemic. So far, it has infested nearly 700 million people and caused 7 million deaths, of which 500,000 fatalities were recorded only from India, and those are only the recorded figures. However, we have seen that globally in September, the cases are still somewhere at around 80,000 every week. There are possibilities where we are identifying 30 different viral and bacterial families that could lead to potential pandemics and epidemics. So understanding prevention, preparedness and response for these pandemics is really important. And as an organization through NITI Aayog, a future pandemic preparation and emergency response framework to action has been released, and that actually talks about the pillars and the four key reforms, which is governance, legislation, finance, and data management, working together to bring in more capacity building, community engagement, and risk prevention. So there is another aspect that we would understand, and that is a proposed overhauling of the current system for establishing a new institutional framework for public health emergencies. For example, the NDMA, which was set up, has been utilized to respond to COVID-19 emergency, but the NDMA is tailored with disaster management, and it is not with the health crisis front. So there should be similar agencies, like we are recommending a new group, that is Public Health Emergency Management Act, and that would be ready to deal with public health emergencies, future pandemics, non-communicable diseases, or even there are, if bioterrorism is one of the causes. So there should be a different body which should intervene to the idea. The next is the dense forest in the regions of Simlipal in Odisha have seen a distinct population of melanistic tigers. Now these are big tigers with thick strips and have black appearances, and they have the only habitat as Simlipal. They are also called for the pseudo-melanistic tigers, which is one of the critical areas for their conservation here. So inbreeding for this is required in order to maintain the genetic uniqueness, and there have been introduction of female tigers in the region with the idea to promote and preserve the species in the region. So this is another issue that we have done here. Now talking about the government's goal for sustainable development, we are definitely working to eradicate poverty. One such effort has been seen for eradicating poverty by 2030 in the Sangli district village, which is the Khandobachi Wadi, which is a village from Sangli in Maharashtra. And here the women are engaged into self-help groups, men are benefiting from self-employment, and there have been various schemes coming forward, and this is one of the such efforts that have been brought for thematic integration. However, there are challenges that the rural areas face, and this is one such example which could be used to accelerate the benefits in other areas, specifically in the states where population pressure is more, where the representation of panchayat is better, and there again such developments could bring in definite changes and developments, right? And then there are some other important news that talk about the Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana, talking about the drug standard organization control, focusing on the various medications, and talking about the ban on the combination medicines for many cases. Also there have been the habitat right grants for the Mandikia community in Odisha. So these are some of the aspects that have been covered in this issue. In case you have any questions or queries, feel free to connect back on the number below, and definitely the handouts are available on Examrace in the current affairs section, so you can stay subscribed there. Please subscribe for monthly updates on Yojana, Kurukshetra, and Down to Earth. Thanks for joining in.